Hello guys, how's it going? Screezilla here, I hope you're all well. So today just a quick video. It might turn out to be a longer video, but so far it will not be too long. Just on the test range, just talking about, well, ammunition and things that are a little bit wonky in the game, physics-wise. Some things that could be done to improve the game, improve gameplay and improve battles basically. So what am I talking about? Well, I'm going to switch to a arm-piercing high explosive here. Just to fire off my heat and stabilised at the British tank there. And let's fire into this gunner here. Now, our round has just penetrated the gunner, and it would have hit the gun. So, it would have hit the area on the gun, you can just see in front of him. Now, being the velocity of this shell, it may have just gone straight through that, but chances are it should have triggered the cap. The other thing is, well, if your friend's just been hit by a 76mm shell, you're going to be a bit shaken. And this is the thing I want to ask today. So let's fire at the loader here and see what happens. Straight through him, and that actually triggered, so we definitely had a trigger of our explosive there. We damaged the ammo. Now, being that this is a AA vehicle, you know, ammo racks are not going to happen quite as much, but they can still happen. The big thing is, though, that explosion would have gone around in this area here. This guy here would have taken a ton of shrapnel to the face. So why isn't he dead? Well, it's to do with wonky physics in War Thunder. And what I say by that is, when a tank is penetrated, like that, generally what's going to happen is it's going to shake the crew up. It's also going to cause fragmentation. Now, it's going to be pretty much impossible to have full fragmentation in the game because, well, think about it sensibly now. This is an MMO. There is a lot of things going on at once. And to have a full fragmentation physics in the game would take up an awful lot of processing power. But at the same time, there needs to be something to sort of work into that. You may hear some drums, that's just my housemate practicing. So we get some musical background today. But the big thing is, well, when you penetrate a tank, let's penetrate a T-25 there. Let's go through the back of the gun. Okay, that was an instant kill. Fair enough. Let's go for the T-26 there. Hopefully we won't get an instant kill every time. There we go. Okay, so we took out the gunner, loader and commander. Fair enough. In that situation, it's going to take time to recover. Say we're using the armor-piercing rigid composite shells or things like that. I'll just get rid of that shell and load up this one. Let's fire this one into the M26 here. Now, we've killed the loader and the commander, but as that shell's gone through, it would have kept moving. And the other thing is it would have collected armour as well. So as we see here, this hole, which is about as big as a fist, say, probably a bit bigger than your average man's fist, pretty big hole. Now, that's probably about 40mm of armour. So, 40mm with that circumference is going to equate to a lot of shrapnel, as well as the round itself. Because the round doesn't stay in a perfect sphere when it goes through, it shrapnels. Now inside this turret, it's going to bounce around, and A, the concussive force of it's going to knock the gunner silly, but B, there's going to be shrapnel in there, and he's probably going to take a few bits of shrapnel to the face and the arm and stuff like that and be injured. Unfortunately in War Thunder it doesn't really counter for that. And things like the British tanks really suffer for it because there isn't that major fragmentation. Now, if we fire, say, into the front of something, let's move around and fire to the front of this M4A2. I do hope you're enjoying the background music today. That is Steam and Sticks if you're interested on YouTube. She's my housemate and she's a fantastic musician. So anyway, let's fire just in this section. Non-penetration, fair enough. Might not be able to penetrate this guy. There we go. So, up there we've killed the loader, but again there's going to be fragmentation flying around. So in this situation, should there be a stun mechanic? Now this is something that's actually being implemented in another tank game that people may know of. World of Tanks. But it's a bit more arcadey. But it's introducing a stun mechanic for artillery. So artillery won't be as powerful, but they will stun the enemy. And what that means is when you get hit by something pretty hard, even a bomb, say a bomb hits next to a tank, it doesn't kill it, but it knocks it around. If it knocks it over or something like that, that's enough concussive force inside the tank to knock people out, to shake them around. Now, the issue with it can be people go, oh, it's unfair, but if it's for everybody, it's a perfectly fair system. So, say you're fighting, and you're in a PT-76, and you come up against an M60 there. So, you fire into his turret. You kill his gunner and commander. Awesome. But he's still going to be driving. Now, what I would suggest is not having the whole crew shaken up. You know, if it's hitting the turret, unless it's a sort of like something like the M8 Scout, you know, which has its turret basically over the driver. So you can sort of see in that circumstance there's going to be shrapnel hitting the driver, so that could be an exception to the rule. Very small tanks, things like that, where, you know, the turret is right behind the driver and the driver's almost in the turret itself. You could have a system where basically if you hit the turret crew's shaken, so it takes longer for the loader, the gunner, or the commander to get into place. The other thing is if you shoot the loader and commander, say, then the gunner's shaken. Because, well, if you're firing the gun and your friends just get turned into a pink mush beside you, and you've just had a shell penetrate your tank, you're not going to sit there going, oh, okay, well, all's fine and dandy. Now, you could have this, say, for high explosive rounds, for heavy rounds, things like that, that don't necessarily penetrate, but will cause concussive issue inside the tank. So, say we're driving a very heavily armed tank with HE shells, and we fire and we hit the M163 there. Now, what's going to happen in that is it may not knock the tank out, did just there, of course. Let's just reset him. It may not always knock the tank out because, well, it's a high explosive shell. Let's use this Sheridan then for an example. Okay, we're having good luck with high explosives today. So, I'm just gotta wait for the. There we go. So we hit him in the side. His reactive armour saves him. But what's going to happen in that situation is the whole tank's going to be rocked and the crew's going to be knocked around. Now, you don't necessarily need a long stun time. Maybe a stun time of a couple of seconds. You know, for everybody in the tank in a situation like that, everybody's stunned for, say, 4 seconds. And what that does is it gives people time to readjust their tank or run away. So say I'm in the PT-76 here and I come up against a tank that I can't beat. Let's say, for instance, it's this T-32, which, you know, with my heat fin stabilised I could definitely beat, but this is just an example, so I can't kill him front on. I fire my high explosive at him, shake his crew up. It gives me time to back up and run away. Or it gives me time to let the team know what's happening. Now, of course, you could also say fire underneath the tank. And again, that would shake the crew up quite a lot. It would knock them around. It would mean they'd have to readjust their positioning. It doesn't need to be a long stun, as I said. About 2 or 3 seconds would be perfect for a situation like that. Now, if you're penetrating a tank and killing some crew, let's just use this perishing here. Should be able to go through. I don't know actually. Say I fire through and kill his loader or his commander or something like that. There we go, his loader's dead. Inside that turret, they're going to be shaken around, knocked out for a couple of seconds. So when it penetrates, maybe have a timer of 5 seconds. Now, it's not long, it's not a real big nerf, but it would help for the realism factor. And that's what I'm talking about here. I'm not talking about sort of what do we call arcade mode. I'm also talking about RB. And well, in realistic battle and sim battle, having that mechanic could be really handy. You could also have crew training for it. So if your crew is got maximum vitality, then they're only shaken for, say the standard is 10 seconds. If you've got maximum vitality, then it's only 5 seconds. Now 10 seconds is a bit harsh, but for a game that is. But for you know, realism purposes, it's not bad at all. But for argument's sake, let's say 8 seconds. That's a pretty, you know, if we start counting 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll turn off my reload actually. There we go. Okay, so we've got reload off. So say we've got 8 seconds. So we come up against a T-28, say, and we hit it with a high explosive round because we've got no chance of penetrating it. We shake up the crew in the front, which would be the driver and the commander, I think, or the loader. So it can't move. So we have time to run away. So let's just count that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if it's 8 seconds, that gives people a chance to reload most guns as well. Now, in this situation, it would mean that he couldn't turn to face me to shoot me. So, say I shoot him again, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It gives me time to run away. And, of course he could machine gun me, but it gives me time to run away and get relocated. So, then I could have a chance at the side. If it fails, again, got 8 seconds to run around to a new location. Now, of course, it's going to be sucking to be shot at, but if there's certain modules, you know, so if you're shot in the turret or near the driver, then the driver's knocked out. If you're shot in the gun, then of course the gunner's knocked out. It just gives a bit more chance. Now, you could have, say, I'm pretty sure they could do an explosive mass, and, you know, less explosive mass means less knockout time. So, you know, it gives you time to move. It's like tracking an enemy. You know, you could even have things like medkits to help team members, you know. Much like they've got crew replenishment, you know, they could easily implement a medical kit instead of that, or have that and a medical kit. Which means that you can sort of repair the health of your crew members, things like that. It's just an idea for something that would make it a little bit better. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and I did talk about it a little bit before, is shrapneling, and it's something that's really becoming a lot of a problem. And simply, with it. I mean, say we fire into the front of this Sherman. Didn't penetrate there, of course. So, in this circumstance, we've penetrated in this spot. His gunner should be dead. In all honesty there, the gunner and the commander should be pretty much mincemeat from that shell, from where it penetrated first time, because it would go through and it would carry a long armour, it would kill the machine gunner, it would kill the gunner, and it would kill the commander. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that in War Thunder, and that's a very frustrating thing, because, as I said before, for things like the British tanks, it really does affect them. Now, of course, you go for ammo shots and you go for the most effective shots, and sometimes you get really lucky, but other times it just doesn't work properly, and that's when it becomes really frustrating, because shrapneling is something that very much should be in tanks, because that's what generally killed most tank crews. When you think about Tiger 131, I think it's 131, the Tank Museum's Tiger, that tank was pretty much in pristine condition. It didn't get killed, it didn't get knocked out, it didn't get set on fire. What had happened was one shell had jammed itself in the turret ring and another had penetrated the tank. Once it got penetrated, the crew bugged out. That's something that we can't really have in War Thunder, crews running away if they get one penetration. But having that sort of stun mechanic, or having a mechanic where people, you know, are knocked out for a few seconds and taken out of the game for a couple of moments, it could really add a bit of, well, a bit more diversity to the game, and also add a little bit more tactics to the game as well. Because, well, ground forces should be tactical. It shouldn't just be about who can pull the trigger first and who's got the best tank. Which, really, that's what Tank RB's about at the moment. You know, if you had the chance of, you know, knocking a tank out with high explosives, making the crew a bit fuzzy for a few seconds and then repositioning, it could really make a difference. And yes, it would stop people pushing quite as much, but that could be a good thing as well, because it may help stop things like people just rushing spawns and stuff at the start of the game. Say, if an IS-6 wasn't invincible to, you know, most people's front attacks, or, you know, this, that's the Centurion, isn't it? You know, if you shot it with a high explosive and, you know, cause some concussion on the inside, it would really put people off just bum rushing people. And it could be a really interesting mechanic. So let me know below, let me know what you think of this sort of idea and what you would like to see in game, and, you know, if you would consider sort of shrapneling, things like that, something that would be worth implementing in game. Because, well, I personally feel that we need more shrapnel. We need more realistic tank damage, because at the moment it's very hit or miss, and sometimes, you know, when you're firing with tanks that only have armor-piercing shells, you're really at a disadvantage. You know, if those shells cause some sort of concussive damage or just basically knocked the crew a little bit, you know, even with a concussive, like a armor-piercing shell, if you hit the side of the tank, it's going to be a hard hit, and it's going to make people's ears ring. It's going to knock them for six a little bit. So having that sort of system in game, where if you fire at the turret, say, and you don't penetrate, the person sitting right behind the turret is a little bit woozy from it, it could be a really interesting mechanic. So yeah, let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. I hope you enjoyed the video, I hope you found it somewhat interesting, and I will catch you again soon. This is Screezilla out. Bye bye all.